Okay, welcome everyone. As we now learn the Mishna Yomis for Motzei Shabbos Parshas Tazria, and that's going into early Yom Aleph Shel Shabbos Hagadol, and we are holding at Mishnah Daled and Mishnah Hay in the third parak of Nazir, sponsored Nishmas El Chanan Bunim. Elchanan Bunim ben Naftali Benish, Elimelech ben Eliezer, Lefu Shleim for Yomis min Chayesar, B'schus Avram and Yom Benish ben Malki Yehudis. We're also sponsored by the Fisher family, Nishmas Basi Bas Rabbi ben Avram Alevi, Perel Bas Ruben, and Neshama Shadav and Aliyah, by Yog Klugman and family for their Gesund and Nachas, for Meir ben Chayesara, and for my mother Esther Pradel Baschana. They should all have a refuah shalema b'sek shachar Yisrael. So Mishnah Daled tells us Hareini Nazir Meya Yoim. If let's say Eddie says he's going to be a Nazir for 100 days. Now remember, when he specifies 100 days, that means 100 full days. So Nitma Yoim Meya, if he became tummy on the 100th day, Saiser Esakol, he loses all 100 days. Rebbe Eliezer disagrees. Rebbe Eliezer says that we learn out of Gzeres HaKasav, since the pasuk says Zois Torahs HaNazir B'Yom Malois Nizrai. This is the Torah of a Nazir on the day that he completes his Nazirus. We learn out that if he becomes Tamei on the Yom Malois, on the last day when he completes, he only loses a Torahs Nazir. He only loses 30 days. So Rebbe Eliezer, he only loses 30 days. Nitma Yoim Me'av Echad, what if he became tummy in the 101st day? Now, he already kept 100 days, but the Rabbanan make his Gzeira. We're afraid that if he becomes tummy on the 101st day, and before he shaves, and we say he doesn't lose anything, then he might come to say that if he becomes tummy on the 100th day, he also doesn't lose anything. So therefore, we make him count something, but we're lenient, and we only make him count 30 days. Saiser Shloshim Yom. Rebbe Eliezer says no. On the 101st day, it's already his Nazirus is finished. We don't make any Gzeir at all, but he cannot, of course, finish his Nazirus until he becomes Tar, because he can't bring his Karbanas until he becomes Tar. Since he became Tamei, he has to have Azah, Shlishi, and Shvi, on the third and the seventh day, from the water of the ash of the paraduma, and therefore he practically only loses Ein Esaisa El Shiva, the 7 days of purification, and then he could shave. Now, to understand the next Mishnah, I have to tell you a chiddush that we won't learn about till the 7th parak. So I have to tell you something ahead. And that is, although we said a Nazir that becomes Tamei loses all his days, that's only if he becomes Tamei from corpse contamination, from actually touching a corpse, being under the same roof as a corpse, a revius of blood from a corpse, a ladle full of decomposed corpse substance. If he goes into a cemetery, although he's not allowed to, and although he becomes Tamei, he doesn't lose his earlier days. That's a special halacha that we'll learn about in the 7th parak. Now, with that in mind, let's see who would do such a thing. Eddie. He said Hareini Nazir while he's in a cemetery. That's a crazy thing to do. Now, obviously, afilu hayasham shloshim yom, even if he was in the cemetery for 30 days and grew his hair and didn't drink wine, ein oil min a minyan. It doesn't count, because it can't count until it becomes tar. However, the ein mevi carbon tuma, even if he would touch a corpse, he wouldn't bring a carbon tuma, because you only bring a carbon when you start counting and become tamei. But he never started counting. However, yotza v'nichnas, if he went out of the cemetery for 3 days, and then Eddie has an attachment to the cemetery, he had to go back in, Yatzav Nichnas, he went out for 3 days, went back in. So, Oyel Loy Min Aminyan, those 3 days still count, because remember we said going into the cemetery doesn't make you lose your days. So those 3 days count. But then if he touches a corpse, since he already started his Yimei Tahara, he already started 3 days, or maybe Carbon Tumah, then he would have to bring the Carbon Tumah. Rebbe Eliezer says that when we say that if you touch a corpse, you lose your initial days, Rebbe Eliezer, that's not if he kept just 1 day. If Eddie kept 1 day and then touched the corpse, of course he's tamei and has to wait 7 days and bring karbanas, but he doesn't lose that 1 day. When he becomes Tariq, he starts with day 2. Why? Shenemar, because he takes the pasuk literally. Shenemar v'hayomim harishonim yiplu. The first days, plural, fall away. The only time he loses it is if he counted 2 days. Ad sheyulo yomim rishonim. He counted 2 days. If he only counted 1 day, of course, if he becomes tamei, he has to bring his karbanas. But when he starts again, he doesn't lose the 1 day. He starts with day 2. He only loses the days if it was yomim, if it was at least 2 days. We want to really thank you for making this share possible. Those of you that want to do Mechiras Chametz with me via the document, email me back a filled out document, and then I will call you up to finalize the sale. And thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful Vach.